Time for another board game review, and this time we have the game The Palace of Mad King Ludwig. This was sent to me by Bezier Games and is designed by Ted Alspach. Now this is actually like a sequel to a game I reviewed several years ago, Castles of Mad King Ludwig, back in episode 18. In the Palace of Mad King Ludwig, each player builds rooms one at a time in a single gigantic palace. As rooms are completed, a moat slowly forms around the outside. Once the ends of the moat connect, the palace is finished. Let me show you how to play. So in this game, you are building a giant epic palace for the Mad King. The palace will slowly be surrounded by a moat as it is built, and you earn reward for completing each of the different room types. In addition, you can also collect swans up there in sets at the end of the game for additional points. All scoring is done at the end of the game when the palace is complete, so you can focus on the building. The player who contributed the most to the palace at the end of the game wins. So, on your turn, you can do one of 4 actions. First thing you can do is place a room tile in the palace. So if you look at this room row over here, you can pick one, add it to the palace, and you place one of your markers on it, white side up. So let's say I take the nap room and I put it here. To mark that it's yours, you place one of these inside the room, and then you look at your player board in the room that matches this type. This is one of the sleeping rooms. So I would put a note or a symbol, a little token here. Whenever I build my second one, I would just slide it over one, like that. The cost to place one of these rooms is indicated by the number of swans below it. If it has no swans like these, it's free. You may pay with swans of any color. And when you do, you just put them back in the supply in the lake. The tile has to align with the grid, and at least one entrance must connect to an existing entrance in the palace. You can block entrances on adjacent tiles as long as at least one other entrance on the tile still connects to the palace. You must be able to get to any room in the palace from the bridge on the board. So, for example, if it was something like this, I could build a room here, even though it seals off this room. Downstairs rooms like this may only be placed next to the downstairs side of a stair tile or another downstairs room. So, for example, I would need like a stairs here, and then I could build off of that. And then I could build off future downstairs rooms from that downstairs room. At least one upstairs room entrance must be available for placing rooms that extend into the open area of the palace. Now, if you manage to match entrance colors like this green to green, the players who own those tiles receive a swan of that color. The most you can get is only one swan. So for example, let's say yellow player and red player own those rooms. So yeah, the yellow player puts it here, both the yellow and the red player get a green swan. However, if yellow player owned both, yellow player only gets one green swan. Gray swans like this are wild and can match anything. So if I, connected it here, for example, you don't have to match, as you can see here, but here, in this case, blue player and yellow player would each get a green swan. And if you match a wild to a wild, like here and here, then each player can pick a swan of their choice. Now these are all supposed to have, different, depending on who owns them, so I'll just throw some in here. But yeah, so that's basically how you build. Another action you can do is place a hallway or stair tile. These can be placed for any cost. So like I mentioned, the stair tile, that's an action you can do. You take one of these and you can go like that. Or you can take one of these hallway tiles. Both stacks are up here. And you can place it here. If I place it here, but I think each of us would get a purple swan. Whenever a hallway or stair tile is placed, you may choose a face-up room tile and discard it. You don't have to, though. If all of the available tiles in the row were theoretically not able to be placed legally, you discard them all and refill. Another action you can do is place a room tile on your blueprint board. If you pay any 3 swan tokens of your choice to the supply, you can choose a room tile from the row. Let me just fill it up again. Let's say I grab one of these. I can choose after paying 3 swans, to put it diagonally in one of these slots. If I do so, I unlock that ability or endgame bonus. If all 6 slots on your board are filled, you can't do that. Another thing I can do is a favor tile. Same thing, I pay 3 swans of any color, and I pick up 3 favor tiles over here. For this, I can take the top 3 favor tiles and I pick one. So these all give you different end game bonuses. For example, this one here means if you have the most, looks like it's stairs, you get 10 points at the end. So what you can do is take that and put it in horizontally like this. That means, however, you cannot get this ability anymore because it's blocked off by this. But if you are able to achieve this at the end of the game, you will earn bonus points. The other 2 go face down on the bottom of the stack. So those are the 4 actions you can do. Once you're done, if there's any gaps, you slide these over to the right and refill. Now, a tile is completed when all their entrances are connected to other entrances, not blocked off by the walls or tiles of other parts or anything like that. So for example, this one is perfectly completed. It's connected 4 ways. Whenever a tile is completed, whoever owns that tile flips their marker. There should be a marker here. Let's say there was a marker, and flips it over to that. Then the owner of that tile receives the completion reward indicated on that tile immediately, if it is a living, sleeping, food, or hallway tile. I'll go over those in a second. And then whoever placed a tile places moat tiles as indicated on the board. So these stacks here will start to get emptied as the game goes on, and as you can see, they are starting covering moat tiles. So let's pretend these 2 are gone. So if somebody completed a room, then you put 2 moat tiles on the board. If you complete more than 1 room at the same time, you just do that number of moat tiles for each room. They go orthogonally adjacent along the edge of the palace. So I could go like, I'm gonna put 1 here and 1, let's say here. Or you could be like, I'm gonna put, for let's say a future turn, both on one side, like that. Now, the key is they have to be orthogonally adjacent, and if there are any like inlets or whatever, you have to fill them in as you go. Moat tiles cannot close off the last playable entrance unless the 2 ends of the moat would connect at that point, which will indicate the end of the game. So yeah, as rooms complete, the water is starting to form around the castle. And as these stacks empty, more and more moat tiles will be placed for each time a room is completed. Let's take another look at our blueprint board. So over here, this helps you track how many of each room you have, because you'll score points depending on how many you have. So if, let's say I place a yellow room, I would put a music note here, and if I built another one, it would continue onward. If you ever build more than 5 and go all the way here, then you would just take a new note and put it here to track that you have 6. Whenever you reach the 3rd space of a row, you get the swan of that color. In this case, a blue swan. If it's a gray swan, you get to choose the color. If you make it all the way to the end, you'll receive 10 points for each room type you manage to achieve that with. You can also get points for building a variety of rooms. If you build 1 of each room type, you get 10 points. If you build 2 of each, you get plus 20 more, and this plus 30 more, giving you a max of 60 you can earn that way. Let's go over some of the abilities you could uncover with these room tiles. If you choose that action and slide these in, both of these will give you swan discounts, 1 each, meaning you don't have to pay swans when you take these tiles over here if you have the full discount. This action here, you may move up to 2 moat tiles from one end of the moat to the other during your turn. This slot over here just gives you 10 extra points if it's filled at the end of the game. This one, if you are tied on any of the favor tiles at the end of the game, you get to score those points. This one gives you 3 swans of your choice at the end of the game. Now, there are 3 ways the game can end. If the moat manages to connect all the way together, the game will end. Or if all the moat tiles are depleted, or if all the room tiles in the stacks are depleted. Then the last player's turn is over and the game ends. And that's when you get into scoring. Before we get into scoring though, let's go into those tile rewards I mentioned for completing tiles. A living tile, if you manage to completely build all entrances connected, you receive an additional set of all swans in the living room that match connected rooms. So, for example, if I did, let's say, this, and this. If I managed to connect all 4 entrances of one of these living rooms, then I get another set of 2 purples and 2 blues. If you finish off a food room perfectly, you get to take 3 favor tiles from the stack and place one of them in an open slot on your board for free, and you place the other 2 back on the bottom. You don't have to take any of them though. If a sleeping room gets connected perfectly, you get to take a room tile from the row and place it in one of your ability slots. If a hallway is filled perfectly, you get the 2 swans of that color on the tile. If you finish off a downstairs room, you get a secret swan. Secret swans are on this bridge here. You take one, you look at it, and then you put it back face down. It'll score as a secret swan towards your sets at the end of the game. There are also end of game rewards, like stairs. At the end of the game, you will receive 3 points for each downstairs room in the downstairs section connected to your stair tiles. So this is connected to 1, you would get 3 points. Utility rooms like this at the end of the game will score you points depending on what you have. So if I manage to finish this room with entrances, at the end of the game, I will score, looks like 3 points for every sleeping room. And then an activity room like this, it's just as simple. If you manage to complete it, you get 7 points for each one you do. Now let's go through scoring. I already mentioned a bunch of this stuff. For example, like stairs score for every downstairs room. The utility rooms and the activity rooms score for their things. But besides that, you also score, like I mentioned, 10 points if you filled this slot here. These points if you built a variety of rooms or a lot of certain types of rooms. And then at the end, there's also swan sets. At the end of the game, for every full set of different colored swans you collect, that is 10 points. A set of 4 is 7. This is 4 points, 2 points, and 1 point, and so on. So yeah, you want to collect as many different colored type of swans as you can. And then there's also the favors. So favors can look something like this. For example, if you have the least number of living rooms at the end, that's 15 points. This, if you have the most yellow swans, that's 10 points. Most utility rooms is 10 points. The fewest activity rooms is 15 points. These 4 were public favors that are over here, so you know what to work towards during the game. But also the ones that you collected during the game and put into your slots horizontally, these will also score at the end. And that's pretty much the game. You put the rooms together, collect similar colored swans if you connect the entrances. If you fill the entrances perfectly, you unlock end game rewards or immediate rewards, and you try to build different rooms and get points. And once the castle is all the way completed and surrounded by the moat, the game is done. And that's the game. So this is an interesting sequel. Ultimately, the original is superior, but let's go into what I like about this game first. First off, the moat that surrounds the castle as you go, that's a fun mechanic. Not only is it a neat visual of the game's time limit, but also it can be very fun, cutting off opponents' rooms so they don't get their, bonuses for completing the rooms. There's also that concept of choosing, to slide the tiles diagonally or horizontally to get abilities or end game bonuses. I like that idea. Like getting that swan discount, for example, can be really nice, but maybe instead you want to get that nice end game bonus. But there's a risk, because what if you don't earn it? It's fun to think about what benefits you want to go for and what end game bonuses you want to plan for. The first half of this game, I was having a good time, and I was really enjoying it. But as the game went on and got more and more convoluted, as the castle gets bigger and bigger, and you have more and more things to keep track of, the game really overstayed its welcome for me. The scoring is pretty tedious, because even though the board, the little blueprints board, keeps track of stuff, you still have to go through and, like, I don't know, there's a lot of things to keep track of. So scoring at the end is kind of tedious. You got to go through the rooms, you know, oh, and count them all up and blah, blah, blah. And if there's a big palace at the end, which there most likely will be, it's kind of a pain. That, and if you play a certain way, this game can go on forever. Like, it just, I don't know. I was really getting tired of it by the end. It also lacks the sort of master builder mechanic from the previous game I really like, where the master builder sets prices. That was one of the greatest strengths in the previous game, and I really miss it in this game. For me, a game's length can be crucial, because sometimes a game can overstay its welcome. And this is an example of where by the end I was just screaming for it to be done. Which is too bad, because I think the first half, I thought it was a very fun little, you know, kind of puzzle of, oh, you know, get this and score the reward and move it up on the chart. But having the game be so long and the end game scoring and everything be so tedious, it really kind of dampens the overall experience. I think the game is pretty fun when you're starting out. It just overstays its welcome, and the original game, I think, is vastly superior. If you like the sort of bonuses in this, of, oh, you get rewards for certain types of rooms and you're making this castle, the original game is the way to go. I would only recommend this if you, like, just are desperate for more, but it's not even really the same kind of game.